Hey, get in, fellas. We're going to therapy. Welcome to Heroes Appreciation Month here on the Getting Fellas pod. So, starting in May, we're going to be taking interview time to touch base with a bunch of different professions that we would consider heroes and get the male perspective in those worlds and understand the mental health of existing in those fields. Today, we will kick off Heroes Appreciation Month with Fire Captain Joe Sims, who works in Metro South Fire Department here in Denver, Colorado. And we're going to touch on a bunch of things. What's it like being a fire captain? How do they support each other's mental health? A lot of really cool stuff from Joe. So that interview is certainly worth your time. We'll start as we do with introducing a topic. And this week we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. So what it feels like if you feel like you're faking it. And we'll talk about that and what to do about it. Many people struggle with such a thing. And we will wrap as we do with Bromotions Hall of Fame and talk about Jon Stewart, famous political correspondent and TV host, and really one of my role models when it comes to talking about hard things in an approachable and sometimes fun way. As we think Heroes Appreciation Month, y'all, we're going firefighters, teachers, police, nurses, military vets. So get ready for a fun 5 weeks and a month of learning a lot and building perspective. For now, though, let's go. We're going to tackle something that a lot of people struggle with, even the most confident dudes. Do you ever feel like you're faking it, either at work or with your friends, like you're going to be found out as a fraud? You're not alone, my man. And it's so common, in fact, that feeling that we even have a term for it. It's called imposter syndrome. I hope a lot of you heard that and are like, damn, man, imposter, that's right. Again, not an uncommon phenomenon. So we're going to break down what imposter syndrome is, why it hits us so hard, and most importantly, how you can kick its ass on your way to your own achievements and feeling confident in where you are at this point in life. So what exactly is imposter syndrome? It's basically the feeling that you're not as competent or capable as other people think you are. Most often you attribute your successes to luck, timing, or some other external factor instead of your own skills and hard work. It's like this little voice in your head. It's constantly whispering, you don't belong here. You're not good enough. You're a screw up, and everyone's going to see you're faking it. And it shows up in different ways for different people. Some guys will downplay their accomplishments. Some are terrified of making mistakes, and some become perfectionists in order to quell this concern. In general, though, you're trying to overcompensate for that perceived inadequacy. And there's a lot of reasons why imposter syndrome is so common. Number one in our world right now is pressure from society, and namely social media. We're constantly being bombarded with images of success and perfection, which can make us feel like we're falling short. And another factor is our upbringing. As always, if you grew up in an environment where you felt like you had to constantly prove yourself, you were never good enough, you didn't get enough praise, then you might be more prone to imposter syndrome as an adult because you never really felt competent and capable like we were talking about. And so let's be real, guys, we're really at risk of this because we're taught not to talk about this. We're taught not to share, not to ask our friends if they've ever felt the same way and get that kind of validation that we would need with this sort of thing. Again, super common. Admitting that we feel insecure is like, oh my God, why would I do that? Especially talking about work stuff. But it's really the only way out here because imposter syndrome is a liar. Right? It is an anxious voice in our head that exaggerates and distorts reality, and you can learn to challenge it, but only if you're honest with it, only if you're honest and talking about it with other people. One powerful technique is to gather evidence so you can start challenging it. Literally, make a list of all your accomplishments, your skills, the positive feedback you've received, the things that make you feel good about yourself. And when that imposter voice starts to creep in, pull out that list and remind yourself of your self-worth. And another thing is to work on reframing your thoughts. Instead of saying, I got lucky on that project, think, I worked hard and I deserve that success. Giving yourself credit, that self-talk is not just woo-woo, right? We really rewire our brain to believe those things when we tell ourselves them often enough. And it's crucial to normalize failure and making mistakes. Everyone screws up sometimes. It's inevitable. It will happen. And it's part of the learning process. So we can't let that fear of failure paralyze us. Here are some practical things you can do to battle imposter syndrome. Talk about it. Share your feelings with a trusted friend, mentor, or therapist if you got one. You'll be surprised how many people can relate. Stop comparing yourself to others. Focus on your own journey, your own progress. Celebrate your wins. Acknowledge and appreciate your accomplishments, no matter how small, and practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself, especially when you're feeling insecure, because imposter syndrome can be a real bitch, but it doesn't have to control you. You are capable, you are worthy, and you deserve success. Start challenging those negative thoughts and own your awesomeness, own your accomplishments. Because, fellas, if you've ever battled imposter syndrome before, you know it can be a motherfucker. So be out there to support your friends and loved ones too. Speaking of a dude who is out there to support his loved ones and his brothers in the fire department, we are so fortunate to celebrate Heroes Appreciation Month by having on fire captain in local Denver, Joe Sims. We'll be right back to talk with the cool ass dude. Captain Sims, do you have a preferred vocal exercise to warm us up with?
No, I don't.
There's nothing that you do in the department to get the guys hyped and like, we ready. There's
I thought you
no
meant
hype
like
up circle.
watermelon, the Ron Burgundy stuff. But no.
There you go. Yeah. An entire wheel of cheese. Man, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. All right. Well, you're aging yourself. If a Anchorman's your wheelhouse, then we know roughly how old you are. So everybody, thank you again as we kick off Heroes Appreciation Month. We're so lucky to have with us a local fire captain, Joe Sims, a native of Dallas, Texas, as you know, I don't know, 30% of the people in Denver are these days. He grew up a Stars, Mavs, and an alumni, he and his wife, of Texas A&M. So you know he's a weirdo. He works as an incident safety officer at the fire department. And so he'll tell us about that here in a minute. Enjoys spending time with his kids. And when he gets the chance, fly fishing. So speaking of A&M, are you wearing your class ring?
Nope.
Whoa. Okay. So he's not that much of a weirdo. I take it back. I take it back. I've got some weird A&M friends. Missy, shout out.
It's heavy. And people are like, what? Did you win the Super
But you
Bowl? I'm
own
like,
it.
no, I graduated college. That's all it was.
Yeah. It's something. The Texas A&M. We will say. I mean, I say cult, lovely, but it is an interesting place.
Yeah, cult is pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Well, a really hard hitting question off the top, Joe, as we think about firefighting. What's up with the fire pole? Is that a real thing? Is it as cool as the movies make it look? Let's start there.
It's a thing. So a lot of our
thing. Whoa.
It's getting more rare now. But
is it okay?
Especially you go like East Coast where they have those high, kind of shotgun style firehouses. Mm-hmm. They got to it's just faster than taking the stairs. We have a few stations. I work for South Metro Fire. So that is a 30 station department south of Denver.
Okay.
But got it. We have a couple stations with poles. They're fine. My last station is this 2-story station, and I just took the stairs because middle of the night, the last thing I want to do is slide down a freaking pole. But we have one station that the pole's about 32 feet in the air. And there have been stories about injuries.
Do you get any ham guys who just like do it?
Oh, they love it
to show off.
Cool they'll drop and they won't grab the pole until like 3 feet above the ground. And I'm like, I'm too old for that.
It's impressive.
I'll break everything. Yeah.
You work with a lot of the young guys I know in your role. So let's talk about that. I'm sure those young guys show up ready to slide the pole,
Oh, they're stoked.
And so Joe, tell us about your role. I think it was really cool what you were telling me before we started about this, your role in the incident safety officer and shift training officer. So talk about what that looks like day to day.
Yeah. So my day to day is pretty much filled with what's scheduled is I do me and one other person. We have two of them on shift. So it's shift work. I work 48 hours on, 96 hours off. My day to day is pretty much setting up trainings for people who want to do development. So like somebody wants to learn how to be an officer or an engineer, which is a driver, that kind of thing. We just set up trainings for them, or crew base. If they need to work on something, then we help them set it up. But then I also get to go my incident safety officer role. Any incident where either, fire, big car accidents, any major incident, I'll be there.
So you're both helping with training, either younger officers who want to move up, squads and what they want to learn, but then also kind of available just to show up and be
Yep.
helpful. I mean, you got to that spot, good experience yourself. I mean, it sounds like if
Yep.
you're going to teach, that means you've walked the walk.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been on with South Metro for 18 years. And about in 2022, I became a academy instructor. I taught 4 academies. And then when I came out of that, I went over to safety officer. Before that, I was an officer on a busy truck, and it's a technical rescue station. So we did all the rope rescue and stuff like that.
Do you
Um,
refer to like one station as a truck?
nope, no. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a good question. So
Yeah.
we have 6 trucks in our 30 station department, and then the rest are engines. And so trucks are just they have the big aerial ladder on top. We break up roles and responsibilities on the fire ground based on what kind of rig you're on. And so if you're on
Yeah.
an engine, your job is to get water to the fire. And if you're on a truck, your good job is to help them with that. And then you do everything else outside of that. So you do, searching, forcible entry. They have different equipment for like heavier extrications, like cutting people out of cars,
Jaws of
stuff like that.
life, of course.
Yeah.
It's funny. I guys, I do plan on getting to some more mental health focused and relatable questions, but the excited 5-year-old in me that wants to like look at the fire truck, I didn't know this was going to come out, Joe. But what sparked your passion for becoming a firefighter in the first place?
So there's kind of 2 types of people who knew their whole lives they wanted to be one, and then people who didn't. And I did
Totally.
not. I had no awareness of the fire service when I was young. So I went to school, went to A&M to be a teacher. I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, and my coaches were always really influential for me.
Awesome.
I thought I wanted to be a coach, and all coaches teach history. So I was like, maybe I'll get a better chance. I don't mind reading, so I was an English teacher and a football and soccer coach. Soccer because I played when I was in 6th grade. They
Right.
needed a coach, and I was terrible. Once I got in the classroom, I was miserable at
Hmm.
it. I
Yeah.
was not good. I was taught down near Houston. I was not good at it, and I was engaged to my wife at the time, and she told me, she's like, if you stay a teacher, I'm not going to marry you.
Just
Because
because you were just because of how it was impacting you.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
truly miserable. We moved. She got offered a job teaching up in Greeley, northern Colorado. So we moved up here, and I just got random jobs. I got jobs to a temp agency for a year and a half, just trying to figure out what I want to do with myself. And I landed at a bank, and I was a like investment and loan guy. And
Really? Yeah.
yeah, random. And I was
Yeah.
miserable. And I was convinced that everybody just works to pay the bills and you work
Hmm.
to live outside of it. And one day I had 2 loan appointments set up for me that I'd never met them. And they were both firefighters back to back. And, you're sitting there bull crapping with people talking to them. And I was like, you like your job? And they're both like, I love it.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And so I ended up talking to those guys both for a long time. That was a Friday. The next morning, one of them was going to work, and I went and did a ride along with him. And it was it was hooked. I mean, absolutely. And
Awesome.
it was a
Yeah.
slow department. They ran one call when I was there for 10 hours. But just the idea we were eating lunch and then the tones go off and you go to the most interesting thing that's happening in a bunch
Yeah.
of square miles. And so we got to go, and it was nothing. It was a little medical call, and they were not enthusiastic about it, but I thought it was great. Came back and I started volunteering. I lived up in Windsor, volunteered there for a couple of years, and then I got a job down south. It was Parker Fire at the time. We merged and merged and merged, and now we're South Metro.
Totally. Parker's basically Kansas for those of you listening in other parts of the state.
It
And
really is.
so that's just my favorite joke, Joe. I've had people like, oh, yeah, come visit in Parker. I'm like, no, like, why? Why would I? Joe, that's such a cool thing because one, quick joke, we're going to do teachers next week, Joe, as I was telling you. And one of the guys last night made the like to be a coach, you have to be a history teacher. So that will be 2 weeks in a row that joke gets thrown in there. So shout out Pete Mullenkamp, the baseball coach turned athletic director / history teacher at my high school. Some stereotypes are true.
Yeah.
And speaking of stereotypes, I'm curious, what's a reality of firefighting that might surprise people?
I'd say the amount of poop that you deal with, that you walk
Really?
through. Oh yeah, there's poop everywhere,
You can swear on
always.
this show if that's your style. If not, you don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to. Just
Well, yeah, if it was a party, I'd be like, there's poop everywhere, and it's funny.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's human shit. The amount of that is, and animals and everything
I
else.
was gonna say I was thinking animal, but there is really, and I'm a doctor, Joe. There is nothing more vile than human shit not in water. People
You,
complain about dog poop, but dude, it is
man,
significantly more foul.
it's a surprising factor of our job. Because
Yeah.
we're all hazard. And so we go on every medical call that's in our 500 square miles. And so there's a lot of sick people
That's
and
what I was thinking. It's like you're dealing with a lot of both physical, so maybe loss of control of bow, but
yeah,
also mentally ill people when you go on those calls. And so
yeah,
it does paint a picture of pretty sad. And also, right
yeah.
here from the top, it helps round out like what a firefighter is doing day to day, which, yeah, you're putting out a fire every so often, but really doing
Hmm.
a lot of different things. And that's probably not something I was thinking much about, this today
Sure.
when I started doing this interview. So super cool that you found your way to this, Joe. And I hope people listening hear from you. Like, I don't have to stay in a job that I don't like. And if something does not give me purpose, then you can find purpose, and maybe it'll slap you right in the face like it did with you, Joe. But otherwise, you can go find it. And I'm
Hmm.
really glad you have, Joe. I'm so glad it suits you. So I'm curious, you work with men all the time, and especially in your training role, you work with a lot of young men. Like, why do you think men hesitate to discuss their emotions and how they're feeling? What's your perception of that?
I know everybody's different. I think for me, it's always trust. If somebody is like a chronic oversharer, to me, it seems really unwise. They're
But you
not
have a
being,
it's a problem in the other direction.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not a good thing to always share everything because that shows you don't have like the filter and awareness, right?
For me personally, the people I share with are people I trust, right?
Mhm.
And when I'll let them speak into my life. I have faith that it's gonna, stay between us, or yeah, yeah, if that makes sense. I mean, maybe I have
Yeah,
trust issues and it's not
yeah.
undiagnosed, but
We obviously get taught to play it close to the vest. And so, honestly, Joe, like, even to have the attitude of like, all right, I got to build trust with somebody, very normal. And even a little bit of skepticism about what that trust looks like is probably the baseline for most men.
yeah, I think so. And really, all first responders, like, there's an element of, yeah, we're probably going to talk about it later, but some of the bravado of it, things don't bother me, that kind of thing,
Right.
because 911 responses, you just never know what you're showing up for,
Totally.
and so
Totally.
you getting in, and you see some crazy stuff because people are struggling, and
Yeah.
there are some people's lives who are just a mess, you and it's a weird thing to go into their homes. I mean, I was trying to figure out one of the academies we were talking, and if this house is on fire, you go to the front door. Where do you think the stairs are? What
Mm.
does that window go to? You just kind of play it out, and
Yeah.
we were
You're
kind of doing
lightweight architects as a
yeah,
firefighter,
yeah, and
you
we
know?
were thinking about, like, every year you're here. I mean, how many houses? I think I've been in over like 2,500 private homes,
Yeah.
which is odd, but you go into, and they're not all kept together,
Mm-mm.
and people are either, I mean, it's a really bad day when they call 911
Right.
anyways, and so the smells and the family members who are there, and just all the dynamics that come into play with that. So it's such a dynamic job. And so
Yeah.
there's more opportunity to talk about some of that and how it could impact you, or smells or whatever. It's really an interesting.
Thinking about the idea of prevention, right, Joe? Like, ideally, we can strip the bravado and we can know that these things are going to be tough and that they are going to impact us. So I'm curious, how do you and your team build resilience or build mental strength?
Some of it is prevention. It's like
Mm.
what you said. So we do every firehouse has these cards, and they're the individual stress continuum.
Mm.
It's basically, green, yellow, orange, red,
Yellow, red.
right?
Yeah,
Actually, yeah,
great.
yeah,
Hey, we
and
start therapy, Joe, right there with identifying your emotional zone and your
yeah,
hot zone, your cold zone. So, hey,
yeah,
that's great. That's a great place to start for anybody.
yeah, yeah. And so it's such a relational job, right? Because you are on a crew, and my role right now is odd because I don't have a technical crew I'm going to pick up by myself, but I'm at a station with a crew and a medic unit. You grow relationships with these people pretty quickly,
Mhm.
and so it really comes down to, again, trust, and bottom line is you have to care about the people that you work with. But you
Yeah.
start, you can tell when somebody's off. The acute exposure stuff, that does happen, but a lot of it is, where people have stuff going on at home, or they just life stress or whatever, and you can predict it. Predictable is preventable, and like, you can tell when somebody is off their game a little bit. It scratches the itch for a lot of men where you connection. It
Yeah.
really does, because you are just
Totally.
with people and you rely on them, and it could be dangerous. And so you got to have some trust with physical
Trust.
capabilities, as well as, like, They're going to have your
How do you
back.
foster that? I mean, obviously camaraderie and, it sounds like police, sounds like military stuff we'll think about later this month, where like to be brave, you need to also trust the person next to you is being brave because your brain's probably telling you, don't go into that fucking burning house. Are you kidding me? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Right. So you need to have that together as a team. So then you also talked about trust. Like, how do you go about building trust with, let's say, a new guy when they come in and maybe they don't quite know how to fit in yet? Is there ways you bring people in, or team building exercises you do?
Getting sweaty, really,
Mm,
between working out together, or just, we always talk about, when people come to your station, either a probationary firefighter or a new officer, their first couple sets are the shifts we work. We all just need to be sweaty. Just
mm,
you get down and new people, they're nervous. They learn the skills in academy, but
right.
it's in a concrete building,
Yep.
and just getting them the opportunity to do, so they realize, okay, those skills do transfer to a house with trees and shrubs in the yard and three cars, and like, okay, I can still do that. And so you just build trust that way. Like, you work together, and everybody needs to be willing to talk about, because we're all, again, I say we're all hazards. So people can focus as much as they want on certain skill sets, but you really have to try to have some awareness of all the skills you're supposed to be able to do, and then
Yeah.
identify which ones you kind of suck at,
Yeah.
and have that humility to go. Great firefighters will be like, can we please, if they're on an engine, engines don't throw a lot of ladders typically, and they'll be like, can we throw ladders today? Because I have not done that in forever. It
Mhm.
opens the door for now anybody watching is like, okay, it's cool to admit what I need
Which is
practice at.
yeah, of course. I
Right.
mean, so modeling that vulnerability
Yeah.
for the younger guys, or you find yourself in a leadership role, that is such an important thing to do. Because I don't care what kind of jobs you work, we've all had bosses who do not model vulnerability. They do not look kindly upon asking for help or not being self sufficient. And that, again, you're in such a field that is dangerous.
Yep. Oh,
I
it's
told the medical residents and students I worked with, I want you to ask me every question, at least once. Ask the same question twice. I don't care. Our goal is to make sure no one dies
mhm.
today. And
Yeah.
that happens in medicine. I'm sure in firefighting and police work too. People don't feel like they can ask questions and learn, then people's lives are on the line.
And it's tough, right? Because people, I think all first responders, but firefighters, we just enjoy this like public adoration. You know what I mean? And it's from,
I
and,
mean,
and,
it's
and it's
Heroes
not here.
Appreciation Month,
Yeah.
National
Yeah.
Firefighter Day,
Yeah.
Joe.
Look at me. I'm,
I
I'm
mean,
on a podcast. So who am
look at
I?
you go.
Yeah. And, this sounds silly, but like, we're just normal human beings. And so there's some selfish firefighters, there's some lazy firefighters, there's
Sure.
some go-getters, right? I've worked with people who it's like a house of cards. They they stop putting their gear on and training with everybody because they don't want us to see them fail. And it just creates this insecurity. So then they're more resistant to put themselves in an exposed place. And so they just build this big house of cards that is just so easy to knock down. And it's so dangerous. And they end up being a liability for people. And so you have to,
What do you do in a situation where you have a guy like that who's not willing to take feedback or not willing to learn? That's, like you said,
yeah,
it's a
you can,
liability.
yeah, you can talk to them, or, it's all modeling too, because
Mhm.
the majority of people, like I'd say 99% of the people who work with me, they're good people, and they still want to be the person they were in their hiring interview. They really do. They don't show up saying, I want to suck today. It's hard. And sometimes you don't feel like getting sweaty and putting on 65 pounds of gear and all that. And I get it. But so you just create more open environments to be like, we're going to do something today. What do you guys want to do? And
Yeah.
like, talk to that person, like, what is something we need to work on? And then we'll
Yeah.
just do that one and make it short and quick and easy. And then they kind of get built up because they can still do it. And, so you don't
So
have to come down hard on
similar.
people.
It's similar to behavior modeling in general. And I always think about like getting back into exercise. You got this person, they're feeling it, pretty down, depressed. And it's like, okay, what do you want to do? Let's just get
Mhm.
back in the groove, right? Just start small. Don't set unrealistic goals. Give that person a little bit of, control in the matter. I'm interested. You talked about these tough calls, man. So what strategies do you and the department have for processing those tough calls?
So there's a couple avenues, right? We have like the informal and then the formal. And the informal, it really leans on the crew dynamic, right? And if there's trust built up, if they're a tight crew, they've been working together for a while, it just comes down to one acknowledging, man, that was a crappy call.
Sure.
Obviously, kid calls are awful. and
Mm-hmm.
those usually kick off a formal response. But there are just calls where I remember this one guy, he'd been a firefighter for like 33 years, just a killer. He was great. This one call, which was pretty benign to a lot of us, it hit him so hard.
Yeah.
He stepped away, he was crying, and because you build up these walls, but at some point, something's going to sneak around and just, it's
Yeah.
going to connect to something from his personal life or whatever.
For
Um,
everyone's safety, you have to have the wall built up like within the
yeah,
call, right? I
yep,
mean, that's the same in healthcare. If you're responding to a code blue, right? And
yep,
then, but so you're saying that this was even within that, like kind of out of place. Like, hey, hold on,
yeah,
like this is okay, but like,
yeah,
why now?
yeah. And it's happened to me a couple times. One time, my twins were young, and there was this kid that had some severe disabilities, and he was pretty sick, but not awful. We had to get him downstairs, and I was like, I'll just carry him. And he was probably like 9, but he was developmentally disabled. So I picked him up, and like he just kind of turned and nestled into my
Mm,
shoulder, and like my eyes started tearing up because it reminded me
yeah,
of my son when he was an infant, and it was like this different ages and all that looked nothing like Brody, but like it I was like, what the crap? What?
yeah,
But it was like this compassion because, yeah, I mean, normally you want to know, like when you come into this job, you want to know, can I do like dangerous or important stuff quickly and perform pretty well?
totally.
That's the
Under
question. And so,
pressure, those
so
big
you do
big
just kind of,
questions. Yeah,
I, I've always been where I don't process things very quickly, which I think helps in this. So you're just like, I guess this is happening. And you just push it down and then it'll come, you think about it later. But, there are just times when for whatever reason, it just kind of cuts around you. So the informal stuff is just talking with the people you trust on your crew. Sometimes it's just one person or it's the whole group. My job as an officer, like most of the time, I'll say something because I do think it's important to keep like real compassion.
yeah,
Sometimes you kind of fake it, but you're just a call
you,
and you're just not processing what you just did or
yeah,
saw. One thing I'll say is like if we're coming back from a call where I felt like people weren't acknowledging the humanity side of it, like what we did. I'll just say something like, "Oh, that poor old lady," if it's a spouse of somebody who died or whatever. Just to say something like, "Guys, we still consider the impact of what we just
yeah,
did or
yeah.
ran."
But
Um,
you as the leader or the officer, I hope it's not always that way, Joe, but it is on you to set the tone and to give everybody permission to understand the humanity of the situation.
Absolutely, yeah. And we all have times where we're not thinking that way. You know what I mean? But we're still just we're still going to process stuff and things are going to eventually impact you at one point or another, but so that's the informal stuff. It's just talking. It's like,
Yeah.
and the fact is you still get to live with the people that experience that with you, unless it's like 6:30 in the morning, you're going off shift. You have a time to just kind of be around each other. Everything's still normal. We're still going to eat, we're still going to train, whatever, and so it just helps you process through that.
Yeah.
Now the formal side, we have EAP, so we have a peer support team that I'm on. So if there is like an acute exposure to like a traumatic incident, our chiefs are really good about. We give the crews time. They go back, eat, shower up, get cleaned up, and then show up a few hours later for a diffusing meeting
Okay. That's
where
what we call it. Like a processing is a
yep,
diffusing.
yep. And so we just go in with that. And so peer support members will go to the station and just talk to them. And anybody can initiate the diffusing. So
Hmm.
anybody on the crew, typically it's the officer or the battalion chief. Like, man, that was a brutal pediatric. Like,
Yeah.
well, let's go eat. Let's go, settle down for a minute, and everybody peel out for a little bit. They can go out of service. They don't have to be responding to calls, and then we'll show up and just walk through. And it's all really about, sometimes on bad calls with a bad outcome, people carry this burden of like stuff that maybe they didn't think was done or said or thought about or
Hmm.
identified, like, oh, we missed this.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity for people, like, they go around and like, what did you do on that call? What did you do? And then so people can hear, oh no, they did. They checked the blood sugar. They did this one thing that I forgot about. And it just helps kind of,
Right.
instead of their narrow perspective of the call, like it helps them see the
It's
overall.
nice that it's not just necessarily logistical because it's a meant to be an emotional processing, and you guys are probably learning from those moments. Like, did
Absolutely.
we make a mistake? In medicine we call it an M&M, morbidity and mortality. Like, this person shouldn't have died. Why that happened? What seems something I probably wouldn't have realized is, ideally, fingers crossed, it's not a bad day, but you guys have the time the rest of your shift to reflect on those really difficult moments, as opposed, I don't know, any other professions, maybe police or even in medicine, like somebody dies, you just got to keep doing your job. I'm sure you guys have had times where you haven't had as much break time, and I'm sure that you can feel the difference.
Yeah, but sometimes you're grateful for it. Like, I want to get out of my own fuzzy brain. I want to, let's just go
Mm-hmm.
run a call. And then
Yeah.
a little bit of time, and things, the world's not imploding. Everything's, we're still here. And there's an element of that that's helpful, which
Yeah.
is,
It's funny. Therapists, dude, we're the worst. It's like, well, get out of your head and distract yourself, but also feel your feelings. Like, don't just shove them down, So,
yeah.
so you're right, Joe. Like, right after, you might want to be a little busy and just let it naturally settle before you dive in. Or, I'm interested, Joe. It sounds like you guys have a nice formulaic way of doing this. You've been on the force 18 years, you said. Have you seen that approach to the mental well-being change in your career?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
awesome.
the statistics from the last, 15 years, really all like first responders, like suicide rates are really high, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
not good, right? And so they've really stepped back and started to understand it may not all just be about the acute traumatic exposure, which that can play a part, but we're all pressure cookers. And if you don't have a way to release your tension or what else building up, it can go bad. And so we didn't have a peer support team when I came on. We had versions of it, but
Yeah.
we've had some amazing people who were really heavily involved in our union, IAFF, which is the Association of Firefighters. And that's a big part of health, safety, and wellness is the union stuff. And people who can give care, like counselors or therapists who know about what we do,
Sure.
and can help. And just this huge amount of resources now that we have available
Yeah.
to us. We have the IAFF has the Center of Excellence on the East Coast, which is a facility. They cover the bed cost for people who want to go with alcohol abuse or emotional stuff, whatever you're struggling with, you can go out there and get there. But then we have all
Oh,
the
that's
therapy
awesome.
places
So do you
around
get
here
like
too.
inpatient or residential level of
Yep.
care? I was just thinking that, Joe, 'cause how is the perception of somebody who needs that kind of support? Do you think fire people can be in therapy? They could be on medication or have sought treatment and be allowed to return? Like, what's a
Oh,
plan for
absolutely.
somebody like that? Yeah.
Absolutely. As long as it doesn't affect their ability to do their job.
Sure.
We typically have multiple people seeking some sort of treatment
It's
at any given
awesome.
time, and they just become advocates for it. And there's no greater thing for our EAP program than people who've used the resources.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and it's so generous. I mean, you can spawners, their families can go, and it's covered. It's a huge, huge benefit because shift work is hard just in itself.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like any of our spouses are rock stars because they handle our whole lives outside of here for 2 days out of every six on their own completely
Right.
with no help.
Are you like sleep jacked off coming off the 48 hours?
It is shocking the amount of night calls you run, and it messes with you hard. And our department has done a lot. They did a big sleep study, and the sleep and cardiac ties are huge, and those are
Oh,
new
of
in the last few years, where
course.
people
Yeah.
have really understood. They've always anecdotally they've known, but now they really see it. So the department's doing everything they can to try to make the sleep that we get at the station effective. Because we have 2 days in a row we're on, like we can't have trains before 9 a.m. on the second day. Just try to let people sleep and wake up as naturally as possible.
When I talk with police officers, it is not the same vibe as what you just listed about, like, it's okay to seek treatment as long as you can do your job. It's okay to ask for help. Is that it's different for police than that.
I can't speak for them completely, but I would say level of vigilance that they have to keep at all times. I think they're going to be more hesitant they're humans, right? And they get spoken to so horribly all the
Well,
time. And
yeah,
that's got to weigh on you. And I don't know
right.
how you deal with it, or I
Considering
feel
how
so
often
bad
they
for
get
them.
bunched, and there's the New York Fire versus Police hockey game in New York City and all that. So considering how often they get bunched together, it's so different. They're so different. Just
Hmm.
the way your shift is, what you're being asked to do, a public perception of, are so different, man. I mean, I think I'm
Yes.
having a little aha moment with that right now.
Yeah.
Um,
They're on their own. We see that. We had a shooting in a entertainment place a few weeks ago, and cops, they show up in their cars by themselves. Like, our whole world is built on a very strict structure. We have one person in charge. Everybody else does exactly what they say. Everybody knows the plan. Everybody knows what we're doing, what the other people are doing, and they don't have that luxury at all. They
Yeah.
have to show up, and there are all these individual resources going around trying to do what the scene needs, but they don't always have all the information. And then, not just on that, but when they're getting cussed out or yelled at, they're by themselves. They don't have anybody
Right.
to talk to be like, can you believe that freaking person? Like, they don't have
Yeah.
any of the coping stuff that we get to do as firefighters. They have to really go out of their way to pursue it. Where
Yeah.
with us, I can talk to you if you're on my crew, like right now, and be like, dude, you are off. What is going on? And you can't get away from me. Because if we go on a call, we're going together. It leads us more to like a better, healthy kind of mutual accountability and compassion thing that the cops just don't
Yeah.
get.
Having the time to be vulnerable, a group certainly helps people versus individuals to be vulnerable. So,
Oh,
Joe, I appreciate you talking about the tough stuff. And I do want to make sure we have a little fun here too, and allow you to give the positive emotions that come with that job. So what makes you most proud to be a firefighter?
oh man, it's such an honor. It sounds cliche, but I mean, legitimately have a position. You wear a uniform to where when you show up at a house, they legitimately could hand you their sick baby, right? And
Right. Yeah.
full trust and faith. And now it's on us to earn that and do everything we can to be as good as we possibly can to show up. But like, overall, there's this sense of pride that comes with this job that people have and they experience, and I love it. That's a very general thing, but it's just the overall feeling I have about the profession.
We're going to play a little rapid fire of strange questions that came from my strange brain about being a
Okay.
firefighter. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. If your fire truck could talk, what would it complain about?
um, Probably how many times we hard brake because people refuse to yield when we're going on calls.
Yeah, get out of the way. People, you
Yeah.
hear those sirens, get over to the
Full.
right. You guys are fearless, big, strong, tough,
Sure.
tough guys.
Oh yeah.
Not work related. What scares you the most?
Sharks.
Sharks.
Yes.
You've been in landlocked Dallas and now landlocked Denver. Why
Yep.
sharks?
When I was 4, my uncle had me watch Jaws,
Mm.
and it was scarring.
My hot take, yes, you were young, so of course you're impacted. Jaws is a bad movie. It's like, I know it's
It is.
a hot take. It's just not a good movie. How they respond to stuff, you're like, that's not realistic. This is nonsense.
It's just, it's the girl swimming in the beginning in the dark water, and she drops down like a bobber, and then she gets taken. I'm like,
I get
dark
it.
water.
You're 4, man. You'd never want to be in water again. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not a good film for Spielberg. That's all I'm saying. All right. What superpower do you think would help you on your job the most?
I would love to just be able to teleport places. That would be outstanding.
You being on the peer support team and being really knowledgeable about the resources for your guys. What are your hopes for the future of firefighter mental health?
Hope that the future leaders in the organization like keep an awareness of the fact that their job is to care for the people that work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you care about them, everything gets easier. The discipline gets easier. Because it's all for people's benefit. Like everything pushes you towards like you want them to be great at their jobs, to help the citizens, and to be good for their own selves. For their families or whatever. And just keep normalizing, bringing in more conversations. We call them like difficult conversations.
Yeah.
When you're having to like redirect somebody if they're sucking at their job, but it's all out of kindness. It's the right thing to do to address something early, to talk to people. It may feel awkward, but I think the fire service is South Metro is doing a great job at that. Like,
sounds like it.
We're teaching our new people that a lot. And I just hope it keeps going. And the leaders are accountable for the people that report to them. And they have to care about them. And if we can keep that going, it's going to make it a really healthy environment.
I love to hear that, man. That's so spot on. So it's been a pleasure, man. I've had a great time and hope you have too. And being our first of this Heroes Appreciation Month of kicking us off in a way where I want people to think about what you guys are up to and how this goes and super awesome to hear not only how you got into the field, but what you've learned and grown from it. So thank you for your service, your bravery, your willingness to be honest with us and really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
We'll get back with Bromotions Hall of Fame as we do, guys. See you after the break. Welcome back, y'all, to the Bromotions Hall of Fame, where we celebrate men who have used their platforms to shed light on important issues with a blend of humor and serious insight, and nobody has done that better to shape the generation's understanding of news and politics than Jon Stewart. One of the people I think of when I think about who I would like to model this show after is Jonathan Stewart Leibowitz, of course known professionally as Jon Stewart, November 28th, 1962 in Trenton, New Jersey, father of Donald, a physics teacher, and Marion. His mother was a teacher and educational consultant. So he grew up in Jersey. His parents divorced at a young age, which, as we know, is a formative experience that he's talked about and how that can really shape who you are and how you view relationships. He started his career in stand-up comedy and host on a few MTV shows until taking over The Daily Show in 1999, which is where his star truly rose. Took The Daily Show into this satirical but extremely influential place in the early 2000s. I can tell you, as a high schooler and a college kid, this is where I got my news. This is where most of the people of our generation came to see the world, understand what was going on, also to have a laugh with it. After retiring for a few years, Jon has come back to do his spinoff of The Daily Show and continue to do the work that he has become so famous for, continuing to get his voice out there to look to make a difference in this world. So, of course, he's been honored by winning multiple Emmys for The Daily Show, both in his writing and his production. He's won Peabody Awards, showing you that this is no joke, this show. And in 2009, he was recognized as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, which I would agree with. I mean, that was my junior year of college. And again, the way that me and my friends got our news. Jon, his work and why we're acknowledging him for the Bromotions Hall of Fame is it's been honest. He is honest. He breaks these complicated issues down into ways that people can understand, including the emotional and psychological impact of these societal issues. And in the way he's done that, he's critical of the systems. He's critical of power structures and has never been afraid to advocate for a healthier mental state of our society. And he sets a great example also as somebody who can find humor as a mature coping mechanism, even when things are really hard, allowing my generation to be critical in a fun and healthy way of authority and of what is going on in politics. He's been a staunch advocate for military veterans on his shows and in different platforms. And his main charity work has been advocacy for 9/11 first responders. And he's even done legislation, at the national level to help support people who were in 9/11. Thinking about his candor, his wit, his charm, I'm going to share a video of an interaction that he had with a young fan before one of his recent episodes of The Daily Show.
I was just wondering, how do you maintain a sense of hope and levity when times... How do you keep laughing through all that?
Right. How old are you?
I'm 19.
19 years old, and the world's already beat the shit out of you. And it's always the young dudes that are like, I have a quick question. I'm 19 years old. When hope is gone, when the darkness slowly creeps down. I'm 61, so I'm already in injury time. So I'm good. I'm actually weirdly always optimistic. We go, I think maybe that is the horizon of history. I came up at a time in the 60s where we had all these great leaders and we killed all of them, every single one. And then we went to Vietnam and then Watergate, shit was just unraveling. So I do think it gives you a sense of, oh, it's always a mess. And what that makes you realize is, oh, so it's just that's the game. We buckle down, you got a lunch pail and you carry through. You're 19, you'll someday when you're 61 and people be saying how do you maintain optimism? Be like, you have no fucking idea what it was like when I was a kid. You will be that guy to be able to say you think it's bad now? And obviously, look, it is. These are tenuous times. And maybe even we'll talk a little bit about that on the program tonight. Terrible time. No, but because part of the issue is you just want someone to talk to you like you're a human, like you're an adult, not like it's a work, not like it's they're spinning you or any of those. That's my biggest complaint with all of this. Nobody expects perfection. Everybody knows that the obstacles and all the things that are going to be thrown in front of us are going to be arduous. That's life. Like life is hard, but you just want someone to not bullshit you when what you see and hear is what you see. Like that's all that you can really do. But how do you maintain? So you're 19. So are your friends optimistic or pessimistic, or do they not talk about it, or are they just on Discord being racist? What is going on?
I mean, I think a lot of people are pessimistic. I mean, how do I maintain optimism?
Yes.
I try to laugh. I watch The Daily Show.
Sir, here's the only thing I would say. I'm glad you do that. But really, we write it for 8-year-olds. So 19 is a little above our pay grade. But is it? I do remember 19, like that age, there is a certain existential anxiety that creeps in because the world does. Listen, it feels out of control. You probably know more about it now than we did I think one of the things that's probably harder for kids now is the amount of information that you absorb is probably, but I would imagine hopefully your brains will evolve to, because when I was a kid, like TV happened and everybody's like, don't sit in front of the TV and eat and just watch TV. And now you'd be so happy if your children would do that. Like, you'd just be like, don't send pictures of your dick to people. Like,
and such a great speech there. And I know as I've matured and grown and had a variety of different bosses and supervisors at work, it's my favorite ones are the ones who, like Jon said, just don't bullshit you, right? If something sucks, just call it like it is. Don't gaslight me. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't make it any different than it is, because sometimes things just are difficult and we want to be honest and be able to communicate directly about that. So Jon, really, man, somebody who has been a model for how I would like to be in this world, his impact on our culture and our political landscape, especially in the aughts and into the teens, is really undeniable. Bromotions Hall of Famer today because of his wit, honesty, and impactful advocacy. And Jon, thank you so much. Keep it up, man. Keep it up. Keep fighting. All right, we're back to wrap up after this. All right, let's wrap as we do with our takeaways from the show and a heartfelt goodbye. So first off, with that imposter syndrome, guys, you got to be open to challenging those insecure thoughts. You have to be open to challenging those beliefs about yourself that have probably been there for a very long time. And so just because they've been there does not make them true. And as we've learned with CBT, you can challenge those negative thoughts, but most important, practice makes perfect. Remember, guys, not a light switch. This is a dimmer switch. So it's going to take time. It's going to take practice. What do we learn from Captain Sims, which is what should good leaders be? They should be models of what's going to help take care of and help them care about the people who work under them. And so what a great job by Captain Sims, by Joe, to emphasize the model of vulnerability, the model of giving guys permission to talk about tough things and express their emotions. And man, that was a great interview. Thank you so much again, Joe. From Jon Stewart, it is that he said it when you saw him touching base with that fan is the world's hard. And we at this show would not want to sugarcoat that for people. And we can also, in addition to it being difficult, do our best and give back and educate and all those things that Jon's done in his career as we're trying to do here. And I hope y'all are able to do throughout your days, throughout your weeks, living whatever life you're living. So appreciate y'all as I always do. And let's get our head around ending as we try and find some ways to be kinder and gentler out in the world, people. We need it more than ever. Talk next week.